Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome into Storytime. We are Kiwi and Lime, and we are reading today at Briarwood / Little Goslings Daycare and Preschool. If you are a Briarwood Estates resident, you will get 10 points for attending today's Storytime events, and your community points can be redeemed for prizes from the community board. Oh, I know, right? I know, right? Today's story time has 10 points. Again, for anybody doing my story stuff, there is some snacks back there on the table by Miss Freya and Miss Mia. For those of you who are new here, I'm Miss Red. I'm a frog lady, and this is my little baby, Annie. He's a little frog boy.
Hello.
And we read all around the grid, all throughout SL, from nuggets to here to there and everywhere. Since I'm learning more and more about the magic and mythical pieces of Briarwood Estates and Mistwood Estates, I figured it would probably be good for us to delve into the world of the Super Fairy Tales. Has anybody ever heard of the SuperFairies Adventures in Peaseblossom Woods? If you have not, you're about to. Am I right? Am I right? Somebody's mic is on, just so you know.
And your mic is on.
Just so you know. It's okay. It happens to the best of us. When I was new, story time. When I was new in SL, I was at a sandbox and I coughed. And somebody IM'd me and said, "Oh gosh, I hope you're not getting sick." And I spent like the next 20 minutes staring at my laptop like, do I unplug it from the wall? Like, what do I do? A hacker! It just turns out I didn't know that on the laptop it was really easy to like trip your your SL mic sounds on. I straight up panicked. So you're not alone, Elena. It's okay. I'm ready, Spaghetti. Annie, are you ready, Spaghetti? Super Fairies Volume 1?
Yes.
Okay. Super Fairies, The Adventures in Peaseblossom Woods, a tale by Janey Louise Jones, illustrated by Jenny Poe. We've got 4 seasons in Volume 1, spring, summer, fall, and winter. The fairy world. The Super Fairies of Peaseblossom Woods use teamwork to rescue animals in trouble. They bring together their special super skills, petal power, and lots of love. Right here on the left, you can see Super Fairy Rose. She can blow super healing fairy kisses to make the animals in Peaseblossom Woods feel better.
Super Fairy Berry, top right, can see for miles around with her super eyesight. Super Fairy Star, in the middle, can create super dazzling brightness in one dainty spin to lighten up dark places. Bottom right is Super Fairy Silk, spins super strong webs for animal rescues.
Basil the bear cub. Look at him having a little tea party. So sweet.
It's so long.
Love it. Welcome in, everybody. You're just in time. Table of Contents, Chapter 1, The Spring Clean. I love the illustrations in this book. The spring clean. The cold wind and snow of winter passed over Peaseblossom Woods, and the warm spring sun shone brightly over the trees. Flowers bloomed, birds sang, bumblebees buzzed. While the SuperFairies were busy preparing for an exciting new season of animal rescues, all the animals of Peaseblossom Woods were slowly waking up from a long and cozy winter sleep.
Yawn, snuffled Susie. Squirrel. Gosh, I am so hungry, squeaked Mrs. Mouse. Oh, what a lovely long sleep that was, mumbled Mr. Badger. Splish splash went Toby Otter as he flopped into the river. I'd like to explore, said Basil Bear, rubbing his berry eyes. The Super Fairies were busy spring cleaning their home inside the cherry blossom tree. Rose was in charge of organizing their closet. She sang cheerfully as she washed all their pretty spring petal dresses and arranged their ribbons and dainty shoes.
Roses and lilies, violets too, blossoms so pink and bluebells so blue. Dooby 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 doo, flowers so true. From time to time she dreamed up some new dress designs, which she immediately doodled on her strawberry computer. I'll show these sketches to the others later, she decided.
Meanwhile, Silk was dancing as she cleaned the bedroom and dusted the furniture with a feather duster. Twirl, spin and repeat, skip, hop. She could hear Rose's song and soon joined in. Blossoms so pink and bluebells so blue.
Over in the storeroom, Barry was sorting through the supplies of honey, herbs, fruits, vegetables, and berries left over from the cold winter months. She wrote labels for the jars and boxes. The labels read, Peaseblossom Healing Honey, Bumblelicious, Fresh Herbs, Peppermint, Parsley, and Sage. Scrumptious Sweet Fruit, Tutti Fruity Tastic. Super Berries, Super Juicy, Super Yummy. Various vegetables for soup, stews, juice, and dips. Barry began to hum along to the song as well. Dooby dooby doo, flowers so true.
Meanwhile, Star was carefully counting and washing their collection of sparkling gemstones in a basin of spring water, lavender and lemon juice. Sometimes they used the gems to help them with their rescues. 1 moonstone, twinkly, 2 rose quartz stones, sparkly, 3 amber stones, gleaming, 4 ruby stones, dazzling, 5 sapphire stones, stunning, she said to herself. Then she caught a bar of the song and joined in. Roses and lilies, violets too, and the harder the Super Fairies worked, the sweeter their song sounded. They loved to work as a team.
Chapter 2, Basil on the Shaky Bridge. The sun grew warmer and the day became brighter. Down at the riverbank, Basil Bear Cub wandered along in search of a playmate. He threw twigs into the water as he went. It's fun to be away from Mom and Dad, he said, but I'm a little bored on my own.
One of the twigs he threw made a huge splash. The water splashed right over Toby Otter, who was laying on the big stone enjoying the warmth of the sun. Hey, what made that splash? He cried, looking up to the riverbank. Oops, sorry, that was me, called Basil. I threw a stick. I didn't see you there.
Toby the Otter sat up. It's okay, he said. Getting wet is kind of what I do. Do you want to play? Oh, yes, please, said Basil. I'd love to. Come down to the water, said the little otter. Basil edged forward nervously. Come all the way down, said Toby Otter. It's fun down here. Back at the cherry blossom tree, the Super Fairies had almost finished cleaning work. "It won't be long now until the animals wake from their winter sleep," said Rose, as she hung up the last petal dress to dry. "It will be lovely to see them all again."
The Super Fairies sat down to a delicious lunch together in their kitchen. Mary bought a salad bowl from the storm room, brimming with herbs, fruits, crunchy vegetables, and berries. Rose appeared with fresh lavender bread, which had come from the Badger's bakehouse, bread with fresh butter from the Fairydale farm. All of this was washed down with minted peach water. "I can't wait to see our fairy friends," said Rose.
"Me too," chorused the others. "And there will be lots of new babies," said Barry. "I love the babies." "Oh, let's have some honeycomb and vanilla cake to celebrate spring," suggested Silk. She took a beautiful big cake tin down from the top shelf. Then, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling, there was a faint ringing sound in the distance. "Oh, does that sound like the ringing bells for the rescue?" said Barry. "It does! It is!" said Silk. "One of the animals in the woods must be in trouble. Ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling."
The ringing got much louder. "Oh dear, we must get our wands as quickly as possible," said Star. I'll check the ferry copter for fuel," said Barry. "We'll definitely need the ferry copter if an animal has to be airlifted to safety." "Yes, and I'll grab our strawberry computer," called Rose.
"Let me fill up the fairy rescue pack," said Silk. In a twinkle, spin, and flutter, the super fairies were ready to rescue. They sat in their fairy copter, ready for takeoff. Barry was at the controls, as usual, because her super eyesight enabled her to see any problems ahead. Rose checked the strawberry computer to see where the problem was.
"Oh, look," she said. "The screen on the strawberry is showing a picture of a shaky bridge. That's such a dark, dangerous spot." "Let's get going," said Barry. "Are we ready for takeoff?" "I'll read through the checklist of what should be in our fairy rescue pack," said Star. "Let me know if you've packed everything, Silk."
Well, let's look at that fairy computer.
Extra wings.
Check.
Warming fairy cloak.
Check.
Peaseblossom healing honey.
Double check.
Energizing fruit smoothie.
Check.
Healing gemstones.
Got it.
And olive oil.
Yeah, okay, I'll put that on the list. Yeah, I got it. "Nothing's missing," confirmed Silk. "Ready for takeoff now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go, go, go," said Rose. With the help of a passing gust of wind, Barry flew the fairy copter up, and up over Peaseblossom Woods. Soon they were soaring in the sky. They followed the line of the river, swooping past Lavender Lane and the strawberry fields. "It looks very dark up ahead at Shaky Bridge, huh?" said Barry, using her super eyesight. "Star, we will need all the brightness that we can get. Please prepare to dazzle." "Ready to dazzle at any time," said Star.
Chapter 3. Ready to rescue. As they approached the part of the river where Shaky Bridge spanned the water, all the fairies except Barry flew out of the ferrycopter. Barry brought the ferrycopter down, 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 softly, gently, carefully, and landed it safely in the woodland clearing. Then she flew to join the others. It was a very dark, gloomy part of the woods. The branches of the trees hung heavily over the river, and the wobbly old bridge cast looming shadows over the water.
"Twinkle, dazzle, sparkle, ta-da! I will soon lighten this place up," said Star, using her powers of brightness. She began to spin. The wood suddenly became bright. Oh, thank you, Star, said Berry. That's better. I can see clearly now.
I can see Mother Bear by the bridge, said Berry, looking ahead. She looks worried. All of the Super Fairies followed Berry, and with their wands outstretched before them, they flew to where Mother Bear stood.
Oh, thank you for coming, sobbed Mother Bear. It's my new little cub, Basil. He wandered off and started playing with Toby Otter, and now he's dangling off Shaky Bridge, and I think his paw is trapped. Don't worry, Mother Bear, said Silk gently. We will free him, you'll see. Toby Otter watched sadly from the edge of the water. I'm very sorry. I dared him to cross the bridge. It's all my fault, he said. I feel terrible. Well, I'm sure you won't do that again, said Rose. You did the right thing by ringing the bell, Toby Otter. Father Bear stood in the water talking up to his young son, who was hanging dangerously from the high bridge above.
The Super Fairies have arrived, Basil. Just do as they say, son, he said. Daddy, my paw hurts and I'm very hungry, said Basil. Poor little Basil. He was so scared. Rose flew in close to see what they could do. Hello, Basil, she said, blowing him a soothing fairy kiss. Let me see what is trapping your paw. Your kiss has made my paw feel better, said Basil, but it's still stuck. The Super Fairies fluttered around him, thinking about the best way to free him. A piece of wood is stuck across his paw. We need to remove it. Then he would be able to move, said Silk. The fairies worked very hard to move the piece of wood.
Star and Silk swished their wands over it, hoping it might give just a little, while Rose and Berry tried to move the plank of wood, but it was stuck firmly.
I know what to do, said Berry. Let's pour olive oil over Basil's paw. Then we can slide it out from under the piece of wood. Good thinking, said Rose. Take some oil from my backpack. As soon as the oil was poured, Basil began to wiggle his toes free to free his paw. Wiggle, 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 slip, slide, slither. My paw is moving, it's free, he cried happily. But it worked so quickly that Basil fell down into the river below.
Splash! Catch him, Father Bear, cried Mother Bear. Father Bear tried to catch him. Really, he did. But Basil was carried along with the flow of the river. Help! Cried Basil. I can't swim yet. Super Fairies, please help quickly, cried Mother Bear. Basil ducked under the water. Toby Otter started to swim next to him, saying, You can do it, Basil. Basil's eyes and ears were full of water, so he couldn't really hear what Toby Otter was saying. I can't see, he cried. I can't hear. And still the river's current pulled him along.
The fairies flew as fast as they Waterfall Chapter 4 Waterfall Worry. The fairies flew as fast as they could, following Basil, but after a group of rocks, the river was flowing in rushing circles of fierce water. Basil was whirled and twirled around as if he was spinning inside a washing machine. Whoosh! He went to the left. Then whoosh! He went to the right. Toby Otter couldn't fight the current either. He scrambled to safety at the water's edge, watching the rescuings anxiously. I wish I could do more to help, he said.
Berry, get the fairy copter, said Rose, and Star, take our speed wings out of the pack. Oh, and Silk, go with Berry and prepare the web ladder to throw down to Basil. Everyone, focus time. The Super Fairies stepped up their rescue operation, with Rose and Star hovering over Basil. It was impossible to reach him as he whipped around in the jets of bubbling water.
A strong current of water lifted Basil up and propelled him with a blast back out into a fast-flowing open river. Rose and Star followed him along the river wearing their fastest wings, past Badger's Drift, past Squirrel Square, past Lavender Lane. "Oh no," said Star. "Look, Basil is almost to the waterfall." "We have to save him," said Rose. "Basil!" called Star, but Basil couldn't hear them because of the noise of the rushing water. Barry and Silk flew overhead in the fairycopter and threw a web ladder down to Basil. He didn't see it.
The waterfalls loomed up ahead. Rose knew it wouldn't be long before the little bear would be carried over the edge of the rugged rocks and thrown downwards, where the water poured like a faucet turned on full blast.
"Please do something," said Mother Bear. "He'll never survive the falls." Rose spotted the duck family nestling into the riverbank. "Mr. Duck," called Rose, "can you paddle to Basil, please, and tell him there's a ladder coming his way?" "I'll do my best," cried Mr. Duck. Mr. Duck used all his strength to half paddle, half fly out towards Basil. He got up close to him. "Basil," he cried, "look up. The fairies will throw a ladder down to you." The poor little bear was exhausted. With the last bit of energy in his body, he did as Mr. Duck said and looked up. The ladder was dangling just above him.
At first, Basil didn't catch the ladder, and then he tried again.
But it slipped through his tiny paws. "You can do it, Basil," called his father from the riverbank. "You're strong enough. I know you are. I believe in you. Try again."
"Your daddy says you can do it," said Mr. Duck. "Try again, Basil. You must." The brave little bear cub reached out for the ladder again. He used all his strength, and this time he grabbed it. "Hooray! Don't let go, Basil," called out Rose. "Good job. We are so proud of you." Basil was shivering and shaking and shuddering. The fairies flew around him and helped him to climb the web ladder, one rung at a time. He wobbled and swayed and sobbed. "Another rung, Basil. You'll soon be at the fairycopter," said Star. "And we have some delicious snacks and juice in there." One rung at a time, he bravely wobbled his way to the top of the ladder.
At least he was safely inside the fairycopter. Barry gave a thumbs up to Mother and Father Bear below. "Meet us back at the cherry blossom tree," she called. Mother and Father Bear set off as fast as their little legs would take them. "Bravo, Basil," said Rose. You made it, little one." Basil's teeth chattered so much he couldn't speak. "Let's wrap him in the feather cloak," said Star. Basil snuggled thankfully into the cozy cloak. "I'm so hungry," he said in a croaky voice.
"How about some honey?" said Rose. She offered him a spoonful of Peaseblossom healing honey. He licked the spoon. I've never had honey before," Basil said, "but I think I'm going to like it."
"Your daddy says you can do it," said Miss O.
No. "Oh no, technical difficulties with my book. Pause for the cause."
"We gotta know the ending. We gotta know it."
"I'm so sorry. We were right in the rungs. Right in the wrong, something's wrong with my book, but it's okay. I just grabbed it off my bookshelf. So no pictures. But I got y'all on the story on what happens with baby Basil. Okay, let's see. Page 46. At last he was safely inside the fairy copter. Barry gave a thumbs up to Mother and Father Bear below. Okay, wait a minute. 47. How about some honey? Yes. I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay, here we go. The fairies laughed and gave him some more along with tutti frutti smoothies. Barry landed the fairy copter back at the cherry blossom tree. Mother and Father Bear were waiting. Father Bear rushed and reached into the fairy copter and took Basil in his arms. Thank you, Super Fairies, said Father Bear. What would we do without you? The fairies smiled proudly. It was time for everyone to go inside the cherry blossom tree for some fairy fun. The Bear family ate fairy cupcakes and the Super Fairies and chatted until dark time. From now on, said Basil, I will never, ever, ever wander off without Mom and Dad again. The end of chapter 1 for the Super Fairies.
At first I thought it was me. I was like, am I reading this?
No, I'm sorry. We will definitely have to fix that. Fix that for sure. I see. Okay, time check. Okay, good. We're good for book 2. You got book 2? I'm putting book 2 out now. Let's pray book 2 is it's wonkety inside. We love that. If it's not me saying Walmart risotto on accident mid-story, it's definitely the book pages fouling up for me. Oh, it became a whole gesture. It was a whole thing. I wasn't hungry. I was trying to read walnut risotto. For some reason, Walmart came out of that. Mushroom and Walmart. Mushroom and walnut risotto. If we're eating Walmart, that's no bueno. Thanks, comma.
Dancer, the wild pony. He's so cute. Table of Contents, Chapter 1, Summer Fair Plans. Chapter 2, Mystery at the Stables. Chapter 3, Dancer on the Run. Chapter 4, The Dance Contest. Chapter 1, Summer Fair Plans. The sun was warm and bright, and the air was filled with the scent of roses and lavender. The river tinkled through the Peaseblossom Woods, and the woodland animals relaxed in the soothing warmth of the midsummer. The Super Fairies were very excited. Yippee! Today is the summer fair, said Rose. It's always so much fun. I'm in charge of the contest to design the best fairy dress.
I can't wait. I'm going to sell super jams, said Barry. I've been picking berries all week. I'm going to help people make necklaces, said Star. She placed lots of sparkling gemstones in a box. The fair is always the best day of summer, declared Rose. I love seeing all the animals having fun. Ooh, let's decorate the cherry blossom tree with flowers and lanterns, y'all, said Silk. Oh, yes, chorused the other 3 super fairies. I love the dance contest at the fair, said Star. I so want to win this year. Oh, Star, it's fun to take part, but you know Dancer the Wild Pony always wins, said Rose.
Yes, she's a lovely dancer and the best Peaseblossom Woods, said Star. But I won't give up hope. she added with a smile as she practiced her dance moves around the house.
The fairies started to decorate their house with branches of delicate blossoms and vases of pink roses when they heard the sound of the bells ringing in the woods. Okay, y'all, what sound does the bells make? We've heard it with the basil story. Ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling. They all stopped immediately doing whatever they were doing. Listen, one of the animals needs us, cried Rose. She checked the strawberry computer. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. What's the problem? Asked Berry. Well, we've got to get over to the Copperwood stables as fast as possible, said Rose. Oh, dear, said Berry. Can you see what's happening?
Yes, cried Rose. Dancer's in some kind of trouble. How terrible. Dancer, said Star. Poor thing. I wonder what's going on. Let's get moving.
The fairies filled the tank with the fairy copter with spring water fuel from the pump, flew into their seats, checked their checklist, and were soon ready for takeoff. There was no time to waste when a rescue was required. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go, 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 said Berry at the helm of the controls. The fairies were up in the air in the fairy copter and a swish of the flower wand. Perfect flying conditions, said Berry at the controls. Clear skies and no danger in sight. Hopefully this won't take too long to figure out.
I hope not, agreed Rose. We need to get organized for the summer fair. The fairy copter fluttered over the leafy trees of Peaseblossom Woods.
Chapter 2, Mystery at the Stables. There is Copperwood Stables, down below. You see it? Said Berry. She began to lower the fairy copter into a clearing in the woods. The fairies flew out of the fairy copter toward the stables. Dancer's sister, Cloud, stood waiting for them at the Copperwood stables. She was all alone. That's strange, said Rose. Where's Dancer? The super fairies all looked across the field for Dancer, but there was no sign of her.
I'm so happy to see you, called Cloud as the fairy copter landed. The thing is, Dancer has disappeared. Disappeared? That's odd. Maybe she's just on an errand? When did you last see her? Asked Star. She was dancing away in the field. Then I heard her sobbing loud. Sad sobs. I came to find out what was wrong, said Cloud.
Well, go on, urged Silk. Well, I saw her cantering off toward the woods, throwing up dust behind her as she went, explained Cloud. How strange. She loves the dance contest at the summer fair, said Star. I wonder why she was so upset. I don't understand what happened, said Cloud. It's not like her at all. Can you think of anywhere she might have gone around here? Asked Rose. Well, she often has her hair decorated with flowers by the squirrels at their beauty parlor. You could try there, Cloud suggested. Okay, we'll start at Squirrel Square, said Rose. The fairies flew westward to where the squirrel family lived.
The squirrels were busy packing up their things for the beauty stall at the summer fair. They piled in strawberry shampoo, petal perfume, blueberry cream, and sandalwood soap. These were just some of the lovely things that the squirrels made for everyone in Peaseblossom Woods.
Mrs. Squirrel came out to greet the super fairies. Hello! I thought I heard the bells ring. How can I help you? Asked Miss Squirrel. Have you seen Dancer? Asked Silk. Well, not recently. We often put flowers in her mane, especially before the dance contest, but not today, though. Funnily enough, said Mrs. Squirrel. Try the frogs. The frog's house, yeah. She often chats with Mr. Frog all the time. Will do. Thanks, Mrs. Squirrel, said Silk. The fairies flew immediately over to the riverbank and explained what had happened. Dancer's gone missing? Ribbit, ribbit, croak, croak. Mr. Frog said with a look of shock. That's very surprising.
She often likes to look at her reflection in the pond and chat with me about this and that, Mr. Frog continued, but not today. Why not try the mousy house? The mice said they had been talking to her about the dance contest. At the mousy house, little Miss Mouse was busy fixing a bow in her hair. Hi, Super Fairy, she cried. But she was soon very upset to hear about Dancer. Gone missing? Oh no, said little Miss Mouse. She was here yesterday when she was here yesterday. She said her dance wasn't good enough to win this year. I told her to practice and just do her best. I watched her dance and told her she did a lovely job, but she didn't sound as if she believed me. The fairies began to get worried.
Oh, how worrying, said Rose. Can you think of anywhere else that she may have gone to? Possibly the Badger's Dell. Yeah, she likes to go there sometimes to see what Belinda Badger thinks of her dances, said little Miss Mouse. Over at Badger's Dell, the Super Fairy saw dainty hoof prints in the ground. A clue, at last, said Silk.
Let's follow the hoof prints, said Berry. The hoof prints are almost certainly Dancer's. They looked as if Dancer had been upset. The prints went this way, then that way, then around in circles. Finally, the hoof prints stopped at the door of the Badger's house. Berry knocked on the door.
Chapter 3, Dancer on the Run. Hello! Anybody home? She called, peering in the windows. Miss Badger opened the door. Yes, she said rather sharply. Hi! Have you seen Dancer? Asked Silk. No, I haven't. Sorry, can't help you, said Miss Badger, slamming the door shut. The Super Fairies were suspicious. Miss Badger was usually so friendly. There was a whinnying sound from inside the house.
Her hoof prints stop here. I can hear her. She has to be in there, said Berry. But why is she hiding, and how do we get her out? Wondered Rose. I'll try to see what's going on inside the house, said Star. She pierced in the little window. I can't see a thing, she complained. Let me try, said Berry, squeezing in next to Star. I do see Dancer, and Belinda, too.
Ooh, what are they doing? Asked Rose curiously. Dancer looks very sad. Her head is low, and her eyes are glistening. She's been crying, I'd say. Said Berry. If they won't let us in, we will have to get them out somehow, said Rose. Why don't I dazzle? They'll all come outside to see what's going on, said Star. Ooh, good idea, and well worth a try, said Rose. So Star spun around and round, creating big, bright flash of lights. Twinkle, sparkle, dazzle, ta-da! The bright light dazzled on the dell. All the badgers came racing outside to see what was going on.
Well, that is a lot of light. We know she's in there, said Star. Why won't she come out? We can't tell you, said Mrs. Badger. You must think Cloud is worried, and so are you. Must. Cloud is worried, and so are we, said Silk. Mrs. Badger clearly wanted to help. She dropped her voice to a whisper. She's worried about the dance contest. Says she's forgotten how to dance. Got herself worked up. Poor dear. Doesn't want to be in it this year, she says.
At that very moment, Dancer clip-clopped out of the house, heading toward the woods. She gathered speed, and in a blink was racing into the distance. Powdery dust filled the air behind her. Dancer, come back, called Silk. Please, we can help you.
But Dancer galloped wildly through the woods, while the Super Fairies chased after her from the air above. Look out, Dancer, cried Berry. There's a huge hedge up ahead. Dancer cantered faster and faster. She jumped over the hedge, then landed safely on the other side, and carried on running. She ran and ran and ran. She came to Rabbit Ridge. The rabbits were icing their huge carrot cake for the home baking stall at the summer fair. Ah, that looks lovely, said Mrs. Rabbit, wiping her brow as she stood back to admire her work. I think that might be my best ever.
Dancer galloped along so fast that she couldn't slow down. "Dancer, be careful!" cried Star. "You have to stop!" Dancer was racing toward Miss Rabbit's carrot cake. Her eyes were misty with tears, and she couldn't see very well.
Mrs. Rabbit heard Dancer and turned around in time to see the sad little pony careering toward her and her cake. "Watch my cake!" cried Mrs. Rabbit. Too late. Dancer ran over the cake. Squelch, sploosh, splatter.
And Dancer kept running. Miss Rabbit looked up at the Super Fairies. "You've got to stop her before she does any more damage," she called. "I spent hours on this cake." The Super Fairies could see that Dancer was going to run until she couldn't run any farther. Dancer kept cantering, the Super Fairies kept flying. Everyone was exhausted, but how could they get Dancer to stop? Dancer came to a clearing that had 5 paths leading from it. She seemed to hesitate for a brief moment. "Oh, perhaps she will stop here," said Rose. Dancer decided to take the narrowest, trickiest path into the deepest part of the woods.
The Super Fairies needed all their skills to follow her down the dark path and dodge between the branches. Eventually, Dancer stumbled. "What shall we do?" asked Star. "Her poor little legs." "Silk, you'll have to catch her gently in the web," called Rose. "We can't talk to her while she's out of control like this." As Dancer stumbled along the narrow path between the trees, Silk dropped the web in front of her. Dancer couldn't go to the left and she couldn't go to the right. She came to a stop as the web folded around her. "Leave me alone," she cried. "I don't want to go to the stupid summer fair."
"We want to help because we care about you," said Rose, blowing healing kisses. "I'm no good at dancing now," Dancer cried. "Please, don't make me dance." Rose's kiss landed on Dancer's pretty nose, and she settled down after that. "Come on, Dancer. You're the greatest dancer in Peaseblossom Woods, and we need you at the summer fair," said Star.
"I can't do it," sobbed Dancer. "It's horrible when everyone expects you to be the best every year. I'm so nervous." "Oh, you poor little thing," said Rose. "Why don't you dance with Star this year?" Dancer's face broke into a sweet little smile. "I suppose I could try that," agreed Dancer. "It would be lovely to dance with her, if she wants to." "I'd love to," said Star. It would be an honor." Dancer giggled. "This could be fun," she said. Rose was relieved. She had been so worried that Dancer would get hurt, but she was safe and well. And with any luck, she would still be in a dance contest.
Chapter 4: The Dance Contest. Before the summer fair, Star and Dancer had a picnic lunch by a cherry blossom tree. "What should we do for our dance?" asked Star.
"I've been practicing something special," said Dancer. "Do you want to see?" "Yes, let's go further along the riverbank and try out some moves," suggested Star. "That's great," said Dancer. "After that, would you like to come with me to have flowers put on our hair?" "Oh, I'd love that," said Star. Dancer and Star had their hair done with matching pink flowers.
Everyone in Peaseblossom Woods was happy and calm as the summer fair began. All of the animals arrived with baskets of food and decorations and balloons. The young animals enjoyed playing games. The moms and dads chatted and ate cupcakes. Mr. Otter took barge trips along the river.
At last, it was time for the dance contest. A huge audience gathered to see Star and Dancer dance together. They danced to scenes from Cinderella. Mr. Badger played an old piano. Dancer and Star made a dainty jumps, spins, and hops.
It was the prettiest dance anyone had ever seen. "Oh, well done!" said Rose. "That was truly lovely." Dancer was so nervous when it was time for the winner to be announced that all the fairies hovered around her to make sure she didn't run off again.
And the winner is, announced Mr. Mouse. We have two winners this year, Star and Dancer. A huge cheer went up in the crowd. Best dance ever, said someone. A lovely partnership, said another. How sweet, said little Miss Mouse. Hey, we both won this year, laughed Star, as they received their floral garlands from Mr. Mouse.
The four super fairies lay back on the grass with the sun shining on them. Dancer turned to all the super fairies. "Thank you for giving me back my confidence," she said. "I'm so sorry I tired everyone out." "Whew, we are tired," said Rose, "but it's time for our song." The super fairies formed a fairy circle while Dancer danced in the middle. The fairies sang their rescue song. Dancer danced merrily along the riverbank. "Hey, come back!" called Rose. Dancer cantered straight back, and she promised not to run away the next time that she felt nervous. The end of Book 2.
Maybe we have time to get halfway through the third book.
I was just thinking that. Might we have some time to get through the third book? This is a 4-part series. So if we get through a little bit of the third book, I know 4 parts, like what? I know. And it's just, see, I love this about this series. It's just like, super fairies, I'm here for you. I've fallen in love with this author's works, Janey Louise Jones, and she's got a lot of great tales about Poppy and super fairies. I love it.
Someone's mic is on.
I didn't see a single thing about crab rangoons in there. But you know what? If we rewrote it ourselves, we could definitely put rangoons in there in the summer fair. That's fine with me. Crab rangoons! So this is book 3, Martha the Little Mouse. Table of contents. Chapter 1, The Rainbow Storm. Chapter 2, Martha in Trouble. Oh gosh. Chapter 3, Pumpkin Soup. Chapter 4, The Autumn Queen. Chapter 1, The Rainbow Storm. Super Fairy Rose was busy in the cherry blossom tree making a skirt from golden autumn leaves. Meanwhile, out in the woods, Martha the little mouse and Susie Squirrel held hands and danced around in circles under the big oak tree. It had been raining heavily all morning, and now a huge rainbow was in the sky. It's quite sunny now. Shall we go off on an adventure?" suggested Martha.
I'm not sure, said Susie Squirrel. Mom and Dad says there's going to be an autumn storm later. How could there be a storm when the sun is shining? Giggled Martha. Go not to exaggerate. Let's explore. The girls set off along the woodland floor, looking for somewhere to play. They heard familiar voices. That's Babes with the Bear Cup and my brother Sydney. And Susie. Let's see what they're up to. The girls teamed up with the boys and chased each other through the woods. Autumn is so pretty, said Martha. I love the golden leaves and all the berries and fruits. But before long, raindrops fell through the copper-colored trees.
Plink, splash, splatter. The rain got heavier very quickly. It spilled onto the carpet of leaves as if a faucet had been turned on. Crackle, splish, sploosh.
And cold winds whipped angrily through the woods. Whoosh, swish, flip. The sky became very dark. What happened to the sun? Said Martha. It looks like the sky is frowning, cried Basil Bear. Martha looked up. Oh, look! It's the Autumn Queen flying over the whole woods.
I love the Autumn Queen's outfit. Look at the rainbow. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yes, said Sydney. She's bringing a big storm with her. Oh, she's beautiful, gasped Martha. But I'm scared. Why does she have to bring such an angry storm every autumn? Because she needs to shake off all the leaves for winter, explained Basil.
The trees here have to sleep while we do, and while they're sleeping, the new buds of spring start to grow. They couldn't be green all year. They would run out of energy. That's what my dad told me, and he knows everything. I wish it could just be summer all year, said Martha. I love sunshine. That would be boring, said Basil. I love the storms. This is exciting. I don't like it. I'm going to go home now, said Martha. I want to be safe and cozy with Mom and Dad. All the young animals began to scuttle back to their families for shelter and food. See you later, Martha, called Susie as she went off to the opposite direction of her best friend.
Chapter 2, Martha in Trouble. That night, as the Super Fairies snuggled into their cozy beds in their cherry blossom tree, the wild storm raged around them. Oh, I hate storms, said Rose, as the wind howled and whistled, making the whole blossom tree sway in the wind. It should be over by morning, said Star.
Good night, everyone, called Silk. Good night, all the Super Fairies, said all the Super Fairies. But ting-a-ling-a-ling,
Ting-a-ling-a-ling.
Oh, the animals need us, cried Rose. I'll have to be brave for them. Rose took courage from the other fairies. They wrapped up warmly in their autumn cloaks. Then they flew out through the wind and rain to the fairy copter. They climbed inside.
Let's just acknowledge that the warm autumn cloak is just leaves. Can you see that? It's just leaves. I think that's so cute. See it? She's just stepping out in her leaf coat. Rose, what does the strawberry computer show? Asked Star. Let's see here. Beep, 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 beep. It looks like poor little mice, said Rose. She examined her computer screen. The wind has blown the roof off the mousy house, and they're freezing. Hurry up. We can bring the mice back to Cherry Blossom Tree in the fairy copter and make them cozy here for the night, suggested Silk. Yes, we have plenty of space for them. We'll give them pumpkin soup and hot chocolate and iced gingerbread, said Rose. This could be a bumpy ride, said Berry as she started up the fairy copter. The other 3 super fairies held hands. Ready for takeoff, announced Berry. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, go, go!
Berry used her super eyesight to steer the fairy copter safely through the storm, but it was choppy. The fairy copter floated to the east and to the west, to the north and to the south, but Berry managed to steer back on course using big gusts of wind to power them. They soon landed in front of the mousy house with a tremble, a bump, and a thud.
The whole mouse family was huddled together in a corner of the roofless house. Thank goodness you've arrived, said Mr. Mouse. Little Martha was delighted to see the super fairies. She ran toward the fairy copter excitedly. No, Martha, the wind's too strong. Stay in here, honey, called her mother. But Martha was already out on the woodland floor. Thank you for coming, super fairies, said Martha. I hate the storms. But with that, whoosh! A gust of wind whisked the dainty mouse into the air and twirled her around wildly between the branches. Oh, my baby! Cried Mr. Mouse.
They all watched helplessly as Martha began to tumble, spin, twist, and twirl. She flapped around the treetops with the autumn leaves circling her. "Super fairies to the rescue!" cried Rose, finding her own courage at last. She flew from the fairycopter out into the windy woods.
The fairies held hands and fought against the wind as they fluttered toward Martha. But as they got close to her, a fresh blast of wind swirled the feather-light little mouse off in the opposite direction. "Help me!" cried Martha as she was whisked out of reach. "We'll save you!" called Silk.
Martha was carried in the air through the woods as the super fairies and mouse family followed her. The other animals in the woods became concerned too. The squirrel family watched Martha twirl over the treetops. They were so worried that they got too close to the edge of their nest and tipped up, falling down from their tree. Down the squirrels fell with it. Bump! The nest and the squirrels landed on the woodland floor. All that squirrels were a bit shaken up by the fall. "Are you all right?" called Rose. "Yes, we're fine," said Mr. Squirrel. However, Susie Squirrel, who was best friends with Martha, got very upset and needed to see her friend twirling about the treetops. She began to sob.
"I will climb to the top of the tallest tree and try to reach over to Martha," she said. "No!" cried Barry. "It's too dangerous. Stay with your parents, Susie." But the little squirrel set off regardless, longing to feel useful. She scurried up to the top of the huge oak tree and held on to a curved branch. She leaned out over the wood, stretching as far as she could toward her best friend.
The super fairies hovered between Martha and Susie. Susie was determined to take hold of her friend. "Take my hand, Martha!" she called out. The little mouse continued to flap around in the sky between the trees. "Please!" Martha tried to reach out to Susie.
Their arms were outstretched toward each other. They nearly touched. Almost, but not quite. The super fairies gathered around Martha, trying to scoop her up in their arms.
"I'm so tired," called Martha. "We're doing all we can," said Rose. She blew healing kisses to the little mouse. There was a brief break in the gust of wind, so Martha dropped down below the treetops, where it was more sheltered. The super fairies managed to gather around Martha now. "Stand close to her," advised Star. The fairies guided Martha towards the branch Susie was on. "Come on, Martha, you can do it," said Susie. "You'll soon be safe and cozy if you just reach over. If you just reach over to me." With Susie's sweet voice on Martha's ears and the super fairies guiding her, she finally made it to the branch of a tree.
Chapter 3, Pumpkin Soup. "Hold on, Martha!" Star cried. "Hooray!" cried all the animals on the woodland floor below. The mouse family danced around in a circle. "Now wait on this branch," said Barry, "and I will go and get the fairycopter, and then you girls can hop in." "Yay! We get to go for a ride in the fairycopter! Woo-woo! Woo-woo!" said Susie, hugging her best friend excitedly.
They wobbled on the branch. "Whoa," said Susie. "We don't want to fall off, do we?" "Exactly," said Rose, "so be very still and careful until Barry arrives." Silk called to the animals below. "Everyone, make your way to our cherry blossom tree, but hold hands as you go, and be very careful of the wind. Just go in and put some logs on the fire."
The super fairies helped Martha and Susie into the fairycopter. Then Barry flew everyone safely back to Cherry Blossom Tree. "Phew! I am exhausted," said Barry as she landed the fairycopter. "That was quite a rescue." "I know," agreed Rose. "Wasn't Susie wonderful? Let's heat up some soup, warm some bread, and sit around the fire. Shall we?" "Yes," agreed Barry. "That sounds lovely right now." The rest of the mice and squirrels were already in the sitting room, toasting their little toesies. Super Fairies got busy warming up pumpkin soup, icing gingerbread, whisking hot chocolate, and toasting marshmallows.
The strong winds ragged around the tree house. Once everyone was served, Rose sat very quietly, listening for the bells, just in case. She looked deep in thought.
What are you thinking about? Asked Silk. I know how much harm this storm is causing, said Rose. What we can do about that? The Super Fairies invited the animals to stay overnight with them. Now make yourselves at home, okay? Said Star. Meanwhile, Rose called a meeting of the Super Fairies. What's wrong? Asked Berry as they gathered around the kitchen table. I think we should all go see Autumn Queen now, said Rose. Ooh, why? Asked Berry. Yeah, for what? Wondered Star. We need to tell her that this storm is hurting the animals. She'll understand, said Rose.
The Super Fairies decided there was no time to waste. Shall we wear our formal cloaks? Asked Berry. Of course, said Rose. We must show some respect to the Great Queen. We should not anger her in any way.
Rose continued, we need to find her kindness. It colors the woods with gold and bronze and copper. It ripens the harvest so we can eat in the winter. I know it's there. The Super Fairies tucked the animals into bed with hot chocolate. We have some work to do, explained Rose, but you all rest well, and let us hope that the woods are much calmer by the morning. Good night, and thank you so much, said Mrs. Mouse. She held Martha close to her as they snuggled up for the night in one of the Super Fairies' spare flower beds. The fairies then brushed each other's hair until it was smooth and shiny. They dressed for their important visit to the Autumn's Queen's Corner.
Rose wore a silver cloak and her silver crown. Star wore a golden cloak and her golden crown. Silk wore a lilac cloak and her lilac crown. Berry wore a ruby red cloak and her ruby red crown. Rose led the way as they held hands and fluttered through the swaying trees in search of the powerful Autumn Queen.
The leaves from the beautiful trees of Peaseblossom Woods floated around them like golden confetti. The fierce winds were not calming, and the rains still fell. Rose knew they were doing the right thing. If only they could find the beautiful Autumn Queen. Rose felt sure that they could ask her to calm this very storm. This looks familiar, said Star, as they arrived at an enchanting corner of the woods. They entered a pathway leading to the secret fairy throne room.
Golden silver tree branches arched over the pathway. It was perfectly calm and sheltered. There were glowing lanterns hanging in the branches that lit the way to the throne room. I always forget how beautiful it is, whispered Berry.
They arrived at the entrance and looked in. A vast throne of twisted twigs and bronze leaves sat in the middle of the room. But the Autumn Queen was not on her throne. Where is she? Whispered Berry. She will appear, said Rose. I know it. Nothing happened. The fairies hovered. She cannot be rushed, said Silk. She's super busy, as it's like her own season. Rose nodded. Yeah, true. After a few moments, the Super Fairies heard a rustling of leaves. They blinked, and the beautiful Autumn Queen magically appeared on her throne.
Chapter 4. The Autumn Queen. She was majestic. Her long hair gleamed, and her golden gown sparkled. A crown of branches framed her pretty face. The Super Fairies bowed before her. Rose moved a little closer to the Queen. We are sorry to trouble you, said Rose. I know why you've come. And I'm sorry about the storm, said Autumn Queen. But it's my job to make the trees ready for their winter sleep. I send the winds to bring down the leaves, and sometimes they get rather wild.
Yes, of course, said Rose. But, the animals, they're suffering. I send the rain to make sure there is plenty of water to drink in the winter, the Queen explained. I try my best to think of what the animals will need in the colder months. She added, but I don't want to cause harm and suffering. I love the animals as you do. Oh, we know, said Barry, stepping forward. But, we had to rescue Martha today after the wind picked her up. It was the whole thing. We nearly lost her. So. Oh my, that is terrible, said the Queen. Let me work some magic. Oh, thank you, said the Super Fairies. You do very important work here in the woods, said the Queen, and we are all grateful to you for it.
It's our pleasure, said Silk. We work with the seasons, not against them. The Autumn Queen smiled kindly, then nodded her head to show the Super Fairies that they should leave. They flew back to a different way. They followed the lines of the silver, listening to owls hooting as they went.
By the time they got back to the cherry blossom tree, the storm was starting to calm. Shh, said Rose. The animals will be sleeping. The Super Fairies crept into the house. Surprise! cried Martha and Susie. We couldn't sleep, so we thought we'd have an autumn party.
Oh, how lovely, said Rose. The Super Fairies giggled. Great surprise, said Barry. Is that the pumpkin soup I smell? Yes, said Susie, and more iced gingerbread.
Rose went to lock the big door. She looked outside. The night sky twinkled with bright stars. Hey, everyone, she called out. Looks like the storm has passed over. Oh, hooray, said Martha. Dancing, no more winds. Let's gather around the fire now, said Rose, and sing some songs. Oh, it's time to celebrate autumn. The end of book 3 of 4. Yay! Thank you all so much for coming and staying over a couple minutes late with us to get through book 3. If you are a resident here of Briarwood Estates or Mistwood, you will get 10 points for attending today's event. If you do my story, don't forget to pick up some snacks on your way out. And if you want to know more about us as Kiwi and Lime, we've got a giant magical book down behind comma, and you can click it to join our Facebook group, our Discord server, our in-world group, get location for our bog, because we have a frog bog. There can't be frogs without a bog. And we haven't updated our October calendar yet, but we will in the coming days, and we'll send that out in our group too. Wow, blah, blah, blah. Frankie, Jade and Frankie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, no, you're not. Thank you guys so much for having us here today. When we come back to read, we will finish book 4, but don't fret. Each book, as you've learned so far, is different. We might play on some of the prior books in the story, but it's not like we're missing anything crucial because book 4 is entirely its own book with a different creature that needs help. So we don't have to stress about the need for the story speed. You know what I mean? You're welcome, Annalise. Thank you for coming.
For coming, guys.
Now, my story snacks are located if you go back down that little path. there's a little table up close by the latticework fence, and you'll find the Snick Snacks there. And then if you've got some time to play Pumpkin Smash, highly recommend. It is my favorite.